Hey, what up? Welcome to my channel, Sequential Geek. I be that sequential geek, y'all. What it is, this be comic book haul, a 69 part, a 47. Let's get on with the haul, shall we? A few comics I picked up at the local comic book shop. Just want to start off by pointing out, there is a market for beat up, used books. You're not going to get the money you want, but they could be worth trading for, getting a discount, store credit, but they're wanted. If somebody ever tells you the stuff isn't needed, that's why I bought this. It was because it was beat up and used, not just for the discount. I mean, it's my reader copy. I can now read this whenever I want, lend it out, and I don't have to worry about the condition. So this is not Marvel Milestone reprint. The Marvel Milestones came out 20 years after the fact, 20 years after the first X-Men issue. So 1963 was the debut of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's X-Men, and this is the first issue. 20 years later, like 1992, I think it was in 1993 actually, was the Marvel Milestone editions where they reprinted all those first appearances, first issues by Stan and Jack and Steve Ditko. And then 10 years after that, so this is in 2003, you got the Marvel Masterworks, which compiles their first few issues. This is the first volume. And yeah, we got issue 1 here, 2 through first 10 issues of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's masterpiece, the X-Men. So growing up, my exposure to the first 3-4 years of that Silver Age Marvel Comics was in the form of these like paperback books that would reprint your old school original Marvel comic stuff. We're talking for me throughout the 70s. So this stuff was like, 10, 15 years old at the time, and it was reprinted in black and white, and we would find them just on the playground, riding bikes randomly, and you just find shit everywhere. So we weren't exactly all close to each other, but as we were all like riding bikes around, and then, you'd see those early cartoons that use Jack Kirby's artwork, unfortunately, without giving him credit. But those late 60s cartoons, they were syndicated and replayed throughout the 70s. So we would search out the comic books that those Jack Kirby cartoons were based off of. So that just sort of got the wheel turning for reading Marvel Comics, and turned out those were the original stories. And now I'll be checking them out as opposed to just simple enjoyment. As a kid, I'll be reading them, through the eye of this fucking collector who's been through the whole first appearance gambit and key issue gambit, and checking out indie comics and the whole Stan, Jack, Steve Ditko Marvel Comics drama, and just the history of their creations and the influence that they've had on comic books, sequential storytelling, artwork, Jack Kirby's abstract comparisons. So it's exciting for me in a way to be checking out the stuff, the introduction, the foundation for these new sets of superheroes that have lasted decades. I'm very psyched. So looks like a lot of 6-panel grids here. Jack Kirby. Yeah. Foundation stories. This is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. We're talking guys in their 30s and 40s that were kicking ass. I really like to keep that in mind as well. There's a lot of ideas that they had been developing through previous stories, previous work that they've done throughout the 50s. So here it is, bringing about the birth of the Silver Age from, was it Carmen Infantino's Showcase 4 when he introduced that sci-fi version of the Flash. So now we got more like science involved in comics. Children of the Atom. I wonder if he's referred to as a mutant in these as well. I mean, I could see him being like a mutate, that type of mutant, because his father was Homo sapien, his mother Homo mermanus. I don't know if he was like a mutant. Yeah, psyched for that. And then, yeah, this is Marvel Masterworks is 2003. And yeah, used trade paperbacks. Gotta love them. You know, these trade paperbacks, I think that if you find something that's in real minty, real VF plus from the 80s and 90s, I think that's going to end up being a collectible to the extent where people might pay a premium for it in some form. But if you get even just one slight flaw for stuff from the 90s, 80s, forget about it. Put it in the used lend out bin so people like me can read them. Reader copies. The back issue bin. Check it out. Here's something new. Here's something new. Godzilla, War for Humanity. So this is written by Andrew McLean from Headlopper fame. He did this cover, as a matter of fact. Jake Smith is your interior artist. And I just look at this as like comic books, right? You can have your spy stories, mystery, biographies, whatever, historical fiction. But this just harkens, especially with the coloring by Valentino Pinto, it just harkens to just the excitement of comic books, the action. You know, I haven't read these yet. I am waiting to get all 5. There's 5 of these Godzilla's War for Humanities. I might just get the first 3 and then wait. Because I'm really just holding off. I'm doing a lot of spending. It's the end of an era. Wow, just look at that though. Couldn't resist. Jake Smith, Godzilla, War for Humanity, issue 3 of 5 out of IDW. For something that is just a franchise where they could just sit back and just try and sell it off of a brand name, they still kicked ass with the artwork. All right, another 5-issue limited series, Children of the Comet. This is the last issue. Now, the first 4 issues, the art was done by Kikot. K-O-K-O-T is the person's last name. Fortunately, for the last issue, Damian Connelly is doing the art, which is fucking awesome because it's Pistorius doing the lettering. Which is awesome because Damian Connelly had been doing the art on all the issues, except for the first 4 issues of Children of the Comet. All right, so approximately every 76 years, Halley's Comet passes by Earth, but for certain, the last 2 times Halley's Comet has passed, a very small amount of people have been, I don't know, granted, they've received these auras. They've just as a consequence, they got these auras. So think of it like the book Wild Cards by George R.R. Martin, where the powers, in this case, they're called auras. The powers are just a consequence of some foreign entity, right? Like in George R.R. Martin's Wild Cards books, it was this mist that had gone over the earth. And in this case, it's the passing of Halley's Comet, kind of like with mutants in Marvel Comics. There's just a few people that have these powers, but it's sort of like a double-edged sword. They have negative and positive consequences. All right, so in 1910, I think, is when people were first recorded as having these auras. So check it out. This is the first of 3 limited series that Damian Connelly had created. You Promised Me Darkness was originally out of Argentina. He's born in 1980, Damian Connelly. So he did the art and he drew these comics out of Argentina where they don't really have individual issues. This was originally created as a trade paperback, right? And through Sumerian bought Behemoth. Yeah, this is one of the last Behemoth comics then. And then I think now it's Sumerian. But they divided it up into individual issues. And All right, so 1910, Children of the Comet, right? So Halley's Comet passes by Earth, but for certain, the last 2 times, a very small amount of people have been given these powers, like I've said. And 1910 was when people were first recorded, at least, as to having received these auras. And this unprecedented group of superpowered people formed. The superheroes. They called themselves Children of the Comet. 2 of them, turns out, are immortal. Lady Diversa, who has visions. And then you've also got Sage. He gets like powers every 10 years. Interesting thing about Sage, he's the narrator of this. He breaks the 4th wall. And Sage, if you look at like the first 4 issues with the numbering, they would have like a standard box here. There would be like a picture of a comet with like a little alien dude inside. And I think Sage is part of the origin of this comet giving people powers. I'm not sure because I've only read the first series, You Promised Me Darkness, 5 issues. 4 issues was the second series, Follow Me Into Darkness. And now we're back to the 3rd final one, Children of the Comet. And Children of the Comet, I think, is about the child that Sage and Diversa have. I fucking love Damian Connelly's artwork. I love his storytelling. Cool thing about Damian Connelly with me is I kind of look at him as, there we go, modernizing superheroes, the concept of superpowered people to a certain extent, kind of like with that new Marvel era that I always push, and new Marvel, one word, like around 2000 to 2005, there was this modernization of superheroes, like the Ultimates by Millar and Hitch, when they modernized the Avengers. And in this sense, I mean, just like there are a lot of little things that we take advantage of everyday life that are part of the setting, the backdrop of when he tells stories. That's just one aspect, you know, just everyday things that I think are part of our past few years of living. Like in You Promised Me Darkness, one of the settings is an abandoned mall where these people hang out, as an abandoned bowling alley. So... yeah, Gundam. That's actually one of the characters. And You Promised Me Darkness. Children of the Comet, issue 5, written and drawn by Damian Connelly. Tales of Them Titties and That Booty. This is actually the same publisher as the comic I showed a couple of hauls ago, Flesh Eating Cheerleaders. Dren Productions, D-R-E-N, drenproductions.com. Written by Masia, art by Linzes. It's supposed to be like a sci-fi horror. Artwork looks interesting. I don't mind this artwork at all. I have to see how the story goes. Get off our planet. Sci-fi horror aspect, maybe. Hello. I know it says $4, but I actually got it for $1. I was like pointing out, I'm like, yeah, I bought this because of the stickers. I'm like, isn't that a cool novelty just to find this? It's an okay condition. Whatever, fine. But Luke Skywalker and Palpatine. Return of the Jedi. Not. As far as today goes, holy shit. Archie Goodwin adapting the movie script from 1983. Al Williamson art with Carlos Garzón inks. Really great artwork for bringing that action style to the pages here from the movie. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Oh. Adults only. Oh yeah, as far as the likeness and telling the story, it's what this 4 issues, right? Yeah, 4-issue limited series. That's a great scene right there. Yeah, it's all right. The original trilogy I thought was great. This was the weakest of the 3. Got to be a little bit commercialized. The people in that cantina seemed like it was pandering. to just whatever, trying to be entertaining. We have to pander to people that like music. It was less, I don't know, it just didn't seem like Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back were pandering to trying to bring in families, like with Ewoks, to create merchandise and so forth. Great little Boba Fett image here at the end. But, I mean, it's like, you thought he was a badass. You thought he was. I mean, can we just reboot this franchise? Can we please reboot this franchise? He's like, right here. He's like, not yet. One thing remains. Vader, you must confront. Then only then a Jedi you'll be. And he says, Master Yoda. He's like, that's awesome. And he's like, I'm so glad that I can become a Jedi so I can end up sitting on an island, isolating myself. Yeah. And then when I suspect that my sister's kid could even turn to the dark side, I'm not going to deal with it other than trying to kill him in his sleep. Because I'm a Jedi. I killed my dad Vader, so I can kill my sister's son in his sleep. That's what Jedis do. And then when they do what they do, they isolate themselves on an island. Yup. I mean, he exiled himself. That's why he's on Dagobah alone. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Now, there's a fucking problem here with the past 10 years. Reboot this bullshit, please. Yeah, it's bittersweet to think Return of the Jedi. Not. So in the meantime, though, as far as just somebody that grew up with this self-contained story, I really thought it was fun to see the stickers on here. It's fun to review this, but it's just so fucking bizarre to review this knowing that it will be ruined out of some form of political spite. Like, and if you criticize it, then you're the problem. Early 21st century, former USA. Ugh. Yeah, please reboot this bullshit. Return of the Jedi. When? Check it out. Ewan McGregor from Trainspotting fame and Hayden Christensen from couldn't they pick a better guy to play Darth Vader fame? Poor guy. I mean, he must be thankful that Kathleen Kennedy is in power. Makes his movies look great now. So this is from 2005 when the last of the Hayden Christensen Anakin Skywalker trilogy was going on. Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, the same month, I believe, as this Free Comic Book Day, May. Michael Sufton, Dan Johnson likeness for both those guys was the reason that I got this, in addition to the pretty good condition, and there's no stamp here, so I figured I'd make it a bit more collectible. And these early Star Wars Free Comic Book Day comics are can be somewhat of an iconic look, can be somewhat collectible. But for me, just nailing the likenesses here is what sold it for me. James O'Barr, North Star Presents. This is a limited edition, so to speak, because it's got like the gold font. So, say James O'Barr signature right there. But James O'Barr's signature, honestly, I don't know, maybe it's because in the Detroit area, there's a lot of shit you see by James O'Barr that's signed in the back issue bins. But he's been living in Texas for quite a while. I don't know how long, at least 10 years, but still. North Star Publishing, check this out for North Star Publishing. Brian Azzarello, editor-in-chief. I did not know that. All right, April 1995, Zeitgeist. This is a one-shot. Just appreciation of Mr. O'Barr. Been checking out a lot of James O'Barr interviews recently. He was saying how in the 90s, there was some franchise he was building that had to do with cyberpunk. Some different limited series that were going to connect together. Fucking love James O'Barr. Yeah, check out some interviews with him saying how anatomy, for example, he wants to base on more realistic art forms, people, snapshots like from Michelangelo's David to Iggy Pop. It's showtime. Little reader copy from Harvey Comics, 1991. Winona Ryder's character. But Michael Keaton's character there. Beetlejuice, based on the 1988 movie, I think it was, by Tim Burton. And then this comic, the style of which is it's based a lot on that short-lived cartoon, Beetlejuice. I'm just looking forward to having just a quick, fun read here. Hey, what up? Last comic in the haul, Alien Stronghold, issue 1 of 4. This is from May 1994. John Arcudi did the script, but Doug, M-A-H-N-K-E, Monk. It's got some fucking awesome artwork. Look at this queen they got holed up in here. Now, I haven't read this in a while. Something just occurred to me because I did this like dissertation. When I went over this comic book last year, I did 2 videos, like this massive video on Key Aliens comics. I'll put the link in the description below. The other video I did was all the key comics, early key comics for Aliens versus Predator. And I read this, but you know, it just occurred to me. So this guy, this scientist, Dr. Nordling, right? He is developing this android that looks and acts just like a xenomorph, but it's got attitude. Look at that. And the purpose of this, I think, was to go into an alien hive so that it could steal the gel, the gel that's created that by the queen that covers the eggs and just drips from her, and it's used by humans as a sex drug. And this Dr. Nordling, somebody here is like, he's like, yeah, would you go do this to the to this android xenomorph he created? And he calls it Jerry, G-E-R-I. And it's like, oh, okay. And this woman's like, wow, that thing just gave you attitude? And he's like, yeah, their prime directive is to not hurt humans, but then they also have a second directive, which is self-preservation. And as a consequence, I guess some of them develop these attitudes, or this one does, as it melds with its personality, those algorithms. And this is another android that Jerry has to speak. He has to speak to it. He can't act at all like an alien, or else it'll try and kill it. Its main function is to kill xenomorphs. But this artwork and the story for this and a lot of these alien stories is like the Heavy Metal magazine. And Heavy Metal, as I said a year ago in my Key Comics for Aliens video, Heavy Metal, they are the first publisher to publish Ellen Ripley and Aliens in that 1979 Alien movie adaptation, that one magazine one-shot they did. Alien Stronghold, issue 1 of 4. So I lost this issue when I did that video last year on the Aliens Key Comics, and I finally found a nice copy, nice clean spine. So psyched for that. And that's my haul, y'all. Comic book haul 69, part 47 in effect. So, all right. Thanks a lot for visiting my channel. Thanks a lot for checking it out. Appreciate your curiosity. If you are new, if you are a returning subscriber, thanks a lot for coming back. Thanks a lot for swinging by. Your comments, your feedback, criticism, as usual, are always appreciated. Thanks for hitting me up. Stay safe. Peace.